Alright, so let's talk about the latest framework for social media communication in today's world. First, let's face the reality. The invention of internet and communication technologies are changing the world. They are increasingly becoming pervasive and integral to day-to-day functioning of our lives, whether personal or organizational. They offer unprecedented opportunities of connecting to each and every individual and design the communication structure accordingly to each person. Such a structure can be defined and redefined by both initiator and receiver of that communication type. Such a medium of communication is referred to as social media, and it is transforming the way in which people connect with each other and the manner in which information is shared and distributed. While at a personal level, the uptake and usage of such media is gaining rapid popularity, especially with the advent of the COVID-19. However, use and utility of such media for official purpose, like communicating in a crisis event, remain ambiguous. Many apprehensions remain, including but not limited to issues related to authorization to speak on behalf of organization, department, or agency. Technologies and platforms to be used for communication, scope of engagement, creating synergies between different channels of communication, or compliance with existing legislation, etc., etc. So, you might see something look like this in reality. You see this familiar to you? This one? Or this one? Or this one? Or this one? They are so popular to you and for the entire world. The reality is the advance of social media is transforming the way in which people connect with each other and the manner in which information is shared and distributed. It is entirely different from traditional media such as print, radio, and television in two significant ways. First, the amount of content that can be generated by the users themselves far exceeds the content generated by news or opinion makers. And second, its viral ability to for potential exponential spread of information by word of mouth, KOLs, and interlinking of the various social media platforms, thereby considerably reducing the control over spread of any such information. These characteristics denote the paradigm shift from Web 1.0 technologies that enabled simple information sharing and basic two-way transactions to Web 2.0, where literally everyone is or can be a user as well as generator of content. Social media is redefining the way people communicate with one another. So it is critically important that you must concentrate on this framework in case of preparing for a crisis communication event. Given its characteristics to potentially give voice to all, immediately outreach and 24-hour over 7 days engagement, social media offers a unique opportunities to governments or organizations to engage with their stakeholders, especially citizens in real time, to make policy making citizen-centric. Increasingly, companies across the world as well as many governments or agencies are using various social media platforms to reach out to citizens, businesses, and experts to get feedback on products, service quality, input for new products or services, or at least a comment about the product or service quality, advertise about their businesses like you see every day on YouTube or Facebook. However, many apprehensions remain, including but not limited to issues related to authorization to speak on behalf of company, technologies and platforms to be used for communication or scope of engagement, creating synergies between different channels of communication or compliance with existing legislation, etc., etc. First, let's understand about the social media characteristic. The characteristic of social media contains three components: collaboration, connectedness, and community. First, let's talk about the connectedness. This attribute showcases the media's ability to connect and reconnect like-minded people or people interested in same topics and domains. Through this media, 24/7 connectedness is possible through a variety of media and access devices including PCs, laptops, or mobile phones. Individual retweeting and following other people's commands and status and updating their own account at all hours are examples of this attribute. The second component is collaboration. The connections achieved on this media enable people to collaborate and create knowledge. Such collaborations can be either open or closed. Wikipedia is an example of open collaboration which enables creation of an open web-based encyclopedia through contribution from hundreds of thousands of people. GitHub is an example of closed collaboration wherein experts groups contribute on software development and open source code or version control. The third characteristic is community. Connectedness and collaboration helps create and sustain communities. These communities can create awareness about various issues and can be used for seeking inputs into policymaking, building goodwill, or even seeking feedback into delivery of public services. Pictorially, the characteristics have been depicted below to show the interlinkage between own characteristics and their mutual dependency. So now let's talk about the benefits of using social media. With the ever-increasing diffusion of internet and communication technologies in all walks of life, connectedness is increasingly becoming a given part of our lives. This connectedness brings with it many opportunities and also presents many challenges. From the perspective of government or an organization in general, the following represent some of the reasons for using social media. Enhanced outreach. As the recent world events have demonstrated, social media has emerged as a powerful platform for forming an opinion, as well as generating mass support. In India, Facebook alone has over 3 million users each. Even a microblogging site like Twitter has about 20 million users more. These sites offer an opportunity to reach out this audience at a keystroke. Many of these facilitate access through mobile devices, and with nearly 4 billion mobile users in around the world and still increasing, it offers an unprecedented outreach. Second is the benefit in real-time engagement. Social media release the shackles of time and place for engagement. They can connect policymakers to stakeholders in real time. For example, like in recent Afghanistan crisis, the US State Department used social media platforms such as Twitter and YouTube to assist in locating and evacuating US citizens from Afghan and update the evacuation progress to public around the world. The third benefit is individual interaction. In traditional form of media, interaction with individual users is either not possible or is very limited. Social media platform offers the ability to connect with each and every individual. Such an interaction also enables the marginalized to participate in discussions and present their point of view, thereby improving the political position of marginalized or vulnerable groups. It is specifically useful when seeking feedback on service rendered. The fourth benefit is managing perceptions. One of the big challenges for companies is to avoid propagation of unverified facts and frivolous misleading rumors with respect to companies' products or service quality. Leveraging these platforms can help to counter such perceptions and present the facts to enable informed opinion making. From there, the reputation of a company remains intact. So now let's talk about some types of social media in today's world. So here are the two authors. Their names are Kaplan and Hanlin from ESCP Business School in France. In 2010, they classified social media into 6 different types: collaborative projects, blogs and microblogs, content communities, social networking sites, virtual games worlds, and virtual social world. A brief description of some of the most common types of social media is given as following. Social networking is an online service that enables its users to create virtual networks with like-minded people akin to social networks in real life. It often offers the facilities such as chat, instant messaging, photo sharing, or updates, etc., etc. Currently, social networking sites are the most prominent version of social media. Facebook, for example, with more than 2 billion users and still increasing, is one of the most well-known social networking sites today. Second, blogs. Blogs like WordPress are descriptive content pages created and maintained by individual users and may contain text, photos, and links to other websites. The main interactive features of blogs is availability of readers to leave comments, and a comment trail can be followed. Microblogs are similar to blogs with a typical restriction of 140 to 160 characters or less, which allows users to write and share content. Twitter, for example, is the most well-known microblogging site like that. Next is vlogs and video sharing sites. Video blogs or vlogs are blogging sites that mainly use video as the main form of content supported by text. YouTube and TikTok are now the largest video sharing sites as we know today. Wiki. A wiki is a collaborative website that allows multiple users to create and update pages on particular or interlinked subjects. While a single page is referred to as wiki page, the entire related content on that topic is called a wiki. Wikipedia is a pioneering site of this type of platform. So, unlike other traditional media, social media is more interactive, enable one-to-one conversation and demands immediacy in response. Also, on such platform, the perception of official and personal roles and boundary is often blurred. So the question is, what should you do when using social media on behalf of organization? Here, while using social media for official purposes, the following points I want to deliver to you may be kept in mind to smoothen interaction. First, identity. Always identify clearly who you are, what organization you are on behalf of, or what organization is interacting in the social media. Disclaimer may be used when appropriate. Second is authority. Do not comment and respond unless authorized to do so, especially in the matters that are sub judice, under review, or under investigation internally of that organization you are on behalf of. Third is relevance. Comment on issues relevant to your company area and make relevant and pertinent comments. This will make conversation productive and help take it to its logical conclusion. Next is professionalism. Please remember, be polite, be discreet, and be respectful to all, and do not make personal comments for or against any individuals or agencies. Also, professional discussions should not be politicized. Open it. Be open to comments, whether they are positive or negative. However, it is not necessary and not recommended to respond to each and every comment, since some comments are offensive or disgruntled. Next is compliance. Be compliant to relevant rules and regulations, specifically rules created by your company and regulations created by regulators. Do not infringe upon intellectual property, copyright of others. Privacy. Do not review personal information about other individuals, as well as do not publish your own private and personal details unless you wish for them to be made public to be used by others. So now let's discuss a little bit about the social media challenge that nearly most organizations in today's world are facing. First is the challenge on why to use social media. Companies actually sometimes find it difficult to define the need or objective to use social media. It's really based on my 10-year of experience in the corporate world. Is it for providing information, seeking feedback, generic interaction, etc., etc.? Due to this lack of clarity and purpose, companies often either choose not to use social media or attempt to be present on all platforms at once. The next challenge is which platforms to use. Given the plethora of platforms and even types of social media, is it very difficult to choose the type and number of platforms on which to engage and how to create interlinkage between these platforms. The next challenge is who will engage. Most companies have limited capacity to engage with traditional media itself, and since social media demands a deeper and constant interaction, availability of such resources is even more limited. A closely associated question is of authority. For example, like who is authorized to respond on behalf of the company, whether such a response will be made in personal or official capacity, and from personal or official account, etc., etc. And the final challenge is how to engage properly. The use of social media is an ongoing process and requires long-term commitment. Many have questions around rules of engagement, how to create and manage an account, what should be response time, and what are the legal implications for those response, etc., etc. So, after understanding on those parts that I teach you previously, let's come back to our main point, which is the social media communication framework in today's world. So, my point to deliver to you about the social media framework is to provide to you an in-depth review of type of social media, their characteristic and challenge in their use. The element of this social media communication framework including objective, why an organization needs to use social media, platform, which platforms are the most appropriate ones to use for interaction, governance, what are rules of engagement, communication strategy, how to interact with public on social media platform, and leading, how to create and sustain a community over time, engagement analysis, who is talking about what, where, and what are the main points of conversations, and finally, institutionalization, how to embed social media in organization structure. So here are some organizational compliance principles in today's world. On account must be created and operated in official capacity only. As social media demand 24-hour per 7 days interaction, some responsiveness criteria may be defined and a dedicated team may be put in place to monitor and respond, especially during the time of the crisis event. There should be a congruence and resilience between responses on social media and traditional media. Relevant provisions of laws and regulations in relevant countries or jurisdictions must be adhered to. So, the cycle of the social media communication framework will look like this. Okay, so now let's take a look at detailed activities of each step. First, define objectives. The objective for the use of social media is not just to disseminate information, but also to undertake public engagement for meaningful public participation for formulation of new products or services. Many organizations are exploring the use of social media for public engagement for disseminating information, policy making, recruitment, generating awareness, education, etc., about organization businesses. Therefore, social media may be used for seeking feedback from customer, re-pronouncement of existing product or services, issue surveys based as well as generic interaction, brand building and public relation, especially during the time of a crisis event, generating awareness and education to public about new products or services. Second is identify platforms. Having defined the objectives, for example, like the one that we mentioned previously in the step 1, or define the objective is to disseminate the information related to the crisis event that the company is facing in current periods. Now, the next step is to identify platforms and phases in which such an engagement shall be undertaken at these platforms. While social networks currently seem to be the face of social media, they are not the only platform. Some of the other forms of social media include bookmarking and content curation like Pinterest or Flipboard, transaction-based platform like Amazon or eBay, self-publishing media like YouTube, TikTok, or Picasa, discussion forums like Reddit or Quora. Since the choices are many, it is essential to identify one or two key platforms from which the organization may begin interaction. Based on objective and response, the baskets of platform may be enhanced. So, the organization can engage social media in any of the following manner: by making use of any of the existing external platforms, or by creating their own communication platforms. The choice of the platform, whether owned or externally leveraged, should be made based on the following factor: the duration of engagement, whether the engagement sought is to be an ongoing activity or created for a specific time-bound purpose; the type of consultation, whether the consultation is open to public or confined to a particular group of stakeholders like expert; or the scope of engagement, whether the consultation or briefing require daily, quickly, bi-weekly, or even hourly interaction; and finally, existing laws, whether existing law permits use of such platform and requirement under such law regarding data protection, security, privacy, and archiving, etc. The third step in this framework is governance structure. Since the use of social media is a 24-hour per 7-day engagement, the traditional rules and regulations of media interaction do not fully apply to them. The two most important aspects of social media are its Viral characteristic: news spreads exponentially, especially during the time of crisis event. The viral characteristic is critically important to affect the reputation of the company, so you should be aware about this point. And demand for instant gratification, like queries or responses and counter responses are posted instantaneously. However, since the official pages of department or a company must reflect the official position, some measure of control must be included in the flexible design of communication. Just as rules and regulations exist for interaction with traditional media, similar rules must be created for engaging with social media. Some of the key aspects of such a governance structure include account governance, account creation. A social media account establishes an organization's online identity. Wherever possible, the same name for different social networking accounts may be adopted to ensure ease of search on the internet. Another important phase of online identity is the need for it to be rendered effectively in either long form, like website address or in 15 characters or less. Please note that this is the Twitter maximum. Login and password. Each new account requires a URL, username, or email address, and a password. A proper record of login IDs and passwords must be maintained and monitored. This is critical as multiple people may be authorized to post on behalf of the organization. Two-factor authentication may be activated to ensure account security is in place. Account status. It is important to define whether the engagement may be undertaken through official accounts only, or the officials may be permitted to use personal accounts also for posting official response. It determines who says what on behalf of your organization and in what form it is published. It also outlines how each piece of published information is presented where it is published. The most important aspect is whether the response are in official or personal capacity. Responsiveness. This indicates how often would the pages or information be updated. In what manner would the response be posted? What would be the turnaround time of response? The major attraction of social media is the spontaneity and immediacy of response and feedback, and those visiting the site would expect some kind of response within a predefined time limit. As far as possible, it is important to state upfront the scope of response, given or not given, the type of response, official or unofficial, response time, like 1 day or 1 week, etc., so that expectations are set correctly. Some of the ways to ensure timely response is email integration, like email writing, list management, list building, or proper lead direction so the right internal person takes actions on lists in a timely fashion, and daily management or maintenance of social media platform messages or customer contacts. Response. Not all posts or comments needs to be responded to immediately and individually. Also, wherever a response is required, all posts should be kept short and to the point. While employees are free to post response in their personal capacity, it is mandatory that while they are doing so, they must clearly identify themselves. Confidential information must not be divulged and should not be seen to represent official view unless authorized to do so. There has to be a defined hierarchy, not only of responses but also of queries. For example, the comments and queries may be classified as routine, for which a frequently asked question like FAQ and fixed response script (FRS) may be applied. The next level may be queries or comments related to projects or program. for which no separate official response may be needed, because all relevant information may be available in the public domain, and the query may be responded accordingly. And finally, there should be congruence and resilience between response posted on social media and those in traditional media. The next point is resources management. First, let's talk about the allocation of resources. Since using social media is a resource-intensive exercise, it is important to ensure that resources and their responsibilities are clearly marked out very early. Many organizations have a dedicated team, including outsourced resources, to manage their engagement, while others primarily use internal resources. More often than not, it is advisable to create a dedicated team. One of the key issues that impact the resource requirement is whether the conversation is moderated or unmoderated. In case of moderated conversation, dedicated resource is critical. One of the key resources is an internal champion within the system who can lead the strategy within the department. It is important to know that since the engagement in social media requires different skill sets, the champion and other resources identified would require orientation and training specifically for the tasks assigned to them and keep abreast of the fast-paced development in this media. For role and responsibility. The roles and responsibility of the team responsible for creating, managing, and responding on social media platform must be clearly defined. In each culture or tradition, you may also need to be aligned to roles and responsibilities defined for responding to public comments. For most interactions, flexibility may be given to the staff to respond to regular queries or comments. Escalation mechanism defined in the governance structure must clearly define accountability at all levels. The role definitions must not be limited just to responses, but also include responsibility for matters related to maintenance of login IDs and passwords, issues related to data security, archives, privacy, etc., etc. For example, while the existing web content team may be assigned the responsibility for responding to user queries, special technical expertise may be required to ensure appropriate levels of security. The next matter is content governance. For content creation, social media profiles overlaps. Therefore, sharing consistent content on all social media platforms, especially during the time of crisis event, should form the bedrock of content policy. While the social media tools allows everyone to become a creator, for the official organization accounts, content will have to be specified and tailored to the site on which it's being published. Accessibility. In order to enable wider participants, content creation and availability should be in local language and must not be limited to text alone, which means it must include videos, images, sounds, or GIF stands for graphics interchange format. Moderation. A moderation policy should also be published if the platform permits others to add their own content. This informs people what they can post whilst protecting others who may visit your platform. The moderation policy should include matters related to copyright, rights to addition and deletions. For record management, when any information is shared or guidance given online, is it necessary to ensure that all relevant records are captured, trail it generated, and records are managed appropriately? It is important that the rules regarding record keeping are stated upfront, so that those seeking historical data are aware of statutes and limitations. Some of the important aspects that may be kept in mind while defining record management guidelines are as under. The requirement of existing legislation needs to be kept in mind and are paramount in influencing decisions regarding record keeping. Ordinarily, if online consultation, especially for company who must do the consultation work for customer during the crisis periods or crisis event, if online consultations do not impact decision making, lead to or influence policy making, like seeking information about nodal officer or any other public document, responding to generic commands such as governance should be improved, the agency or the organization may decide that no record of such interaction will be maintained. If consultations are necessarily being undertaken on specific policy, governance issue, or product or quality service, or that may influence decision making, like input into plan document, consultation on policy frameworks of the organization, then unnecessary records needs to be maintained. If the organization is using a social media site that does not facilitate record keeping, then there are various other options that may be explored. Some of the options are given below may be exercised based on needs and resources available. Records may be created company internal platform and records be maintained with appropriate tags like creator or sender, date, posting size. Screenshot may be captured and stored in soft or hard copy format and filed at appropriate place. A summary may be created of the information or consultation and filed. Finally, for the governance structure, it's about data and information security governance. The organization's communication to customer via social media should follow the same data retention policy, if any, as its communication through other electronic and non-electronic channels. Data portability compliance varies from one social media platform to another. Hence, privileged assets may be mandated by the management along the same lines, takedown notice and information requests currently being sent to social media and other platforms for intellectual property rights infringement and other offense. Now, let's move to the step 4, which is the communication strategy. Some of the key aspects of communication strategy include integration of social media into routine, connection with existing networks, sharing content across sites, and publicizing use of social networking through traditional media. Social media can only be used by the organization to communicate existing organization information and propagate official policy, product, and service to the public. While the social media tools allow everyone to become a creator, for the organization's account, content will have to be specific and tailored to the site on which it's being published. Great care must be taken to avoid propagation of unverified facts and frivolous misleading rumors, which tend to circulate often through haters on social media platforms. It must be reiterated here that social media should only be one of the components of the overall customer engagement strategy, and organizations must desist from using only social media to communicate with their stakeholders. Initially, the organization may just aim to post information regularly. For example, if it is a Facebook page, posting may be done at least a couple of times a week, and on Twitter slightly more frequently, especially during the time of crisis event. Ideally, none of the sites should be left more than a week or two without new content. So leading, since social media are relatively new forms of communication, it's always better to test efficiency and efficacy of such an initiative with a pilot project. Some of the principles of creating such a pilot are given below. Focus objective setting. Initiate interaction for a limited objective or limited to one topic. Begin small. It is always better to start small, and it is advisable to begin with 1 or 2 platforms and stick with it until you have attraction. Multiplicity of access. The chosen platform should typically permit input from or linkage through multiple access devices. They will ensure wider participation. Content management. It is not enough just register presence on a variety of platforms. It is essential that content provided is topical and up to date. And community creation. On any social media platform, creation of a community is essential to generate buzz and sustain interaction. For community creation, the utility of social media is in its innate ability to create community of geographically dispersed individuals. However, efforts are required on a continuous basis to create and sustain this community. Some of the steps that may be taken to ensure the same are: connect with existing networks. Existing networks refers to websites or official publication. The organization may also like to connect it to some blogs or pages of willing individuals and employees. The methods of establishing such connections should ensure that updates on anyone should automatically be seen on others, like through RSS feeds, etc., etc. Publicize use of social networking. Existing forms of communications can be used to tell stakeholders about the organization and the effort on social media. Some of the ways in which it can be achieved include: add social network links to leaflets, newsletters, email signatures, and websites, send emails on stakeholders, mention use of social networks at meetings, events, and seminars and encourage people to join in. Ensure any service seeker can find out about and join in with your social networks through posters, like at points of service access. Use TV, radio, and search engine to generate awareness about the site. Integrating social media into routine. Ideally, social networking should eventually become part of organizations' day-to-day work and not be an extra workload external to the routine functioning of the organization. It should be seen as another way of communicating. While sending an email, create a tweet simultaneously or update the Facebook page. Linking with similar communities. Most people join pages from the links of friends or communities where they are already connected. One way of sustaining community is to link to these extended communities and provide updates at least once a week. Some social media sites, such as Twitter, allow the user to not only schedule tweets, but also create an automated message that is sent any new followers on Twitter. These methods may also be used for keep the stakeholders engaged. Social networks depend on users following each other. Networks can be built by actively following others and encouraging them to follow you. People or organizations tend to start following you if you publish posts that are useful or interesting to them. It is important to identify the influencer within these communities and build mutually beneficial relationships with them. Sharing of content. People visit social networking sites not just for news but also content that they find useful. This includes textual content, copy of useful toolkits, links to forum, presentations, as well as visual content like photos, videos, or postcards. These often serve as both icebreakers as well as input for more meaningful conversation. Managing expectation. Each organization should publicly manage expectations for their social media presence in the form of an explicit published social media policy in which expectations surrounding integral aspects of communication with the public, such as public comments, speed of response, and procedures for escalation, are clearly documented. This will ensure that customers have fewer undue expectations from the social media presence of a particular product or service of the organization, especially during the time of crisis. The next step is engagement analysis. The social media monitoring must be an integral part of any social media strategy. Social media data is different from other data or information because organizations have no control over its creation or dissemination on the web. And in order to understand and analyze the data, a structure has to be imposed externally on it. Today, a multitude of tools or third-party agencies offer solutions for measuring conversation, sentiments, influences, and other social media attributes. Many social media monitoring platforms offer demographic information such as age and location. This information can be used to expand the reach of your platform by creating a geo-targeted campaign focused on areas that generate the most traffic to your social media site or your organization's social media site. Some consideration for data analysis include data definition, like selection of platforms, pages, or organization, depth and detail of analysis on each page, like areas or section of the page to analyze, like walls or discussion board or pictures, time frames, like last 1 month or last 1 week data. Criteria for determining the importance of the pages including the notability, popularity, intention or goals of pages, etc. etc. Here are some of the challenges encountered in analysis may be related to, like overlapping functions of posts. Many commands and responses serve multiple purposes. Difficulties in disentangling push messages from pull messages. Inexhaustible range of topics that extend beyond your area of interest. Unpredictable patterns of conversation and user exchange. This challenge may be mitigated by taking the following steps to prevent, like limit scope of analysis, making a small start and defining top 5 or 10 metrics may have organized data, like the number of mentions, the number of comments on specific posts, the number of retweets, or the number of likes, dislikes, or shares. Creation of dashboard. There are many free tools available that can help create a dashboard view of the data, which can be pulled in through the RSS feed. This will help keep tabs on latest happenings. Connect with responders. It is a good idea to collate information or link to profiles about people who respond to queries or topic of your organization interest. Also observe their preference of response, like individual mail, wall posting. Over a period of time, this will help generate a broad profile of people who respond to your efforts. And follow the followers or leaders. Follow your followers and KOLs on other networks or platforms to hear what is being talked about, especially during a crisis period, I must imply again. This would help in spotting the trends in discussion. And finally, institutionalize the social media. The final step in ensuring that the pilot is scaled and integrated is to link it to the existing administrative and communication structure. An indicative list includes rules may be established that all policy announcements will be undertaken simultaneously on tradition as well as social media. On important occasions, as far as possible, may be broadcasted using social media or important messages related to crisis period. All documents seeking public opinion must be posted on social media sites. All updates from the website would automatically be updated on social media site, and all traditional communication will publicize the social media presence. So now I have some tips for the employee of your organization. The organization should encourage its staff and outsourcing vendors to be mindful of the following best practice for organizations who engage in social media on behalf of an organization. First, privacy. Anonymity and privacy are in a constant state of flux in the world of social media. Consider the consequences of a post becoming widely known and how it may reflect on the organization and on those individuals. If you are unsure about posting something or responding to a comment, seek advice from your manager. Second, authorized workforce members. Only authorized staff should communicate via social media. Units should develop clear guidelines for posting comments and personal opinions. Communicate on behalf of for your organization only. If readers see your affiliation with organization, they may read your words as representing. Maintain confidentiality. Do not post organization confidential information, including personally identifiable information or protected health information. Observe on federal or state regulation and organization policy statement. Post and comment lives a long time. Posts and comments may be able to be found via search engine years after they are posted. Think about how posting will reflect your organization now and in the future. Aware about your audience psychology. The public can easily access social media. Consider how online communication can be interpreted in many different ways by many different audiences. Strive for accuracy. Carefully review and verify your facts before posting on social media. Review content for grammatical and spelling errors. Try to cite original sources when referencing external content plus privacy setting. Where applicable, use conservative privacy settings. And finally, core values. Avoid posting communications that are contrary to the organization's core values. Do not post any material that is obscene, defamatory, profane, libelous, threatening, harassing, abusive, hateful, or embarrassing to another individual, group, or entity. Individuals may be held personally liable for posting such materials.